right, welcome to my talk, a lightning talk for today. I have a lot to cover, so I will get right into it. My name is Rebecca. I work as CTO at Pirr, and I have a background in AI, machine learning, data analytics, and cloud computing from small and large SaaS companies. But that was before Pirr. And at Pirr, we let our users create spicy stories with the help of AI, alone or together with others. And here you can see our MVP that you can find on App Store and online as a web app. And since the release in February, almost 1 year ago, we've gained over 250,000 users without any marketing. So we're very proud of this achievement. And we are now working on a huge update that you will get a sneak peek of just in a moment. And we host our own AI models, large language models, and I'm very proud to be working in a team with such competent and strong people for both development of the app and the AI. So why erotica and romance, you might ask? And first off, it's a health factor. So feeling lust, not many know this, I didn't know it before I started at Pirr, but feeling lust can improve your mental and physical health. Because when you feel desire and you feel lust, you release oxytocin and endorphins, which reduces stress and lets you sleep better. And that has positive effects on your immune system, among many other pros. It's also a very popular genre. It's actually the most popular and lucrative one in the Western world. It generates over $1.4 billion every year. And it is growing thanks to social media. People are starting to self-publish their stories and their books. So it's growing tremendously and enters large language models, right? Here you can push really creativity and productivity into this genre. So this is the huge update that we're working on. So if you have checked out the app already or might do this after this talk, I recommend you checking back in again in March. We're going to release this mid-March and you will have an even better experience. So now on to today's topic. So to become more inclusive, one has to increase diversity and reduce bias. And that's what we will dive deep into today. First, why is it important with bias and diversity and avoiding stereotyping? Well, first off, you have decision-making and discrimination. So bias and stereotyping can come to affect your decisions and discriminate against a certain group of people. And for example, in recruitment, just educating recruiters in the awareness of bias can actually help to avoid discrimination. A study has actually shown that the consequences of communicating social stereotypes, and the researcher for that study showed that stereotypes that are received from other people, are more extreme and contain less variables or variability information than stereotypes that you learn from actually meeting an individual from this particular group. And we could argue that the AI might have the same effect, that making stereotypes more extreme, because the data that AI shares stems from human-created content. And finally, a study in India showed that a strong link between spreading false information and confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, for those who doesn't know, basically you're looking for something to strengthen or confirm your beliefs that you already have. And they also found that there were no correlation between cognitive ability and spreading of false information. So basically, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, if you suffer from confirmation bias, you risk of spreading false information if you're not careful. So that's why it's so important. Focus on today, just a disclaimer, is going to be text generation. I find it super interesting, the multimodality era that we're entering into this year. But for now and for today, we're going to focus on text. And then this is the roadmap that I promised in my title. So we're going to build from the ground up, starting with the team. First off, I want to raise the importance of staying diverse in the team. And UNESCO reported that there is a need for more women in the AI research field, because today only 12% of all AI researchers are women. And why this is so important is a large study that showed that diverse teams and companies are more innovative and outperforms less diverse teams. And the reason they believe is that the environment is suitable for out-of-the-box thinking and understanding the user. Because what the researchers found in this study was that when you have at least one member of the team that have some traits in common with the end user, the entire team better understands that user. And a team with a member who shares the same ethnicity as their client is 152% likelier than any other team to understand that client. So having a diverse team of AI developers is crucial, and it creates more inclusive models and reduced bias and against minorities. And at Pirr, I'm very proud to say that we have a 50-50 gender distribution, and we have, I just counted this morning, like 5 different nationalities in just like 10 to 12 people, and we also have members of the LGBTQ community. And that gives us a big opportunity to understand these minority groups. Next up is language. And just with any machine learning, statistical analysis, or even the simplest data metric, we know that what goes around comes around. You know, garbage in, garbage out. I think everyone here knows that or heard that before. So bad data produces unreliable results. But what's so special about the large language models that we're working with is how reliant it is on the natural language compared to like the traditional machine learning algorithms. And why I wanted to raise this is that the British Commission for Equality and Human Rights argues in a report of theirs called The Language of Equality that the English language actually assumes that you are white, male, heterosexual, married, non-disabled, and of European extraction. So this means that just the language itself can make the models biased. So we have to keep that in mind. It's not just about a balanced data set that I will mention later as well, but it's also about understanding the language. Another, in fact, multiple research has also shown about the grammatical gender and how that amplifies stereotypes. A classical example of this is a study by the Stanford psychologist Lera Boroditsky. I don't know if maybe someone has heard this one before, but there actually participants got to describe a key. And in German, where the key is masculine, the German speakers describe the key as strong, rugged, and useful. Meanwhile, in Spanish, where the word key is feminine, it was described as elegant, fragile, and pretty. And also researchers have shown that countries where we have gendered languages or where they are spoken, so for example, just now German and Spanish, that those countries tend to be less gender equal as well. So we need to keep this in mind, that the language can actually play a part in bias and stereotyping. Yes. Next up is the famous one, the data. So it is the most obvious one, but also the most important one. And bias in natural language, as mentioned, is complicate things for sure. And especially for this one, the data. So without diverse data, we cannot build diverse models. It doesn't matter how obvious this might be, I have to say it, right? And it's easier said than done. So reducing bias and increasing diversity in data is challenging. You need to ensure that the sources of your data is diverse. And for us in Pirr, that means that we have creators and annotators and users from a diverse set of genders and ethnicities and sexualities. Another really interesting research that I found, and it's super recent from some researchers at Amazon, is that they showed how the neopronouns are split in, so that's going to be a bit technical for people who doesn't work with language models, but what you do, just keep along, you're going to come back later. And they showed that the neopronouns is actually split into 2 separate tokens when you're tokenizing the neopronouns compared to this binary pronouns. And they could also show that if you train the lexical layer of the language model with data that amplified having the neopronoun as one token, you could actually improve pronoun consistency with 300%. Okay, I have to speed up a bit, but this is a very interesting one from Luther AI, where they, in the later stage of the training, switched the feminine and masculine pronouns, and they could actually show that they decreased. So do you see the dashed line is when they modified the pronouns at the end of the training, and it improved, and you have the bias on the y-axis there, and it improved the bias greatly, or reduced the bias. So this topic is not, fully explored yet. This is just a few examples that you can do and keep in mind when developing large language models. Next step is evaluation. And here we have what we saw previously is a very common one, the Vino or Vino bias dataset. And it consists of sentences where the AI is asked to fill in a pronoun in a sentence and of mentioning an occupation. So for example, the nurse asked the doctor if could get, if it's she or he could get something. The drawback here is it's focused on binary genders only, or pronouns only. And then we have the crowd-sourced stereotype pairs. And this is an interesting data set where they're actually taking 9 different social biases and let the AI find or actually select between a stereotypical and an anti-stereotypical sentence. And it's US-based, so here we miss out, and its limitation is that we miss out on the rest of the world and their prejudice. And last but not least is also a new data set. It was released also in December from these Amazon researchers that I mentioned. And it evaluates misgendering and pronoun consistency of transgender and non-binary pronouns, such as them or them. And as this data set is fairly new, the drawback is that it's not been really tested yet by more researchers, but it's going to be interesting. It's probably going to be done during the next few months. And just as a previous slide, there are so much more to be talking about this, but I do not have time to cover everything. Next up is maybe not an obvious one, it's the prompting. And over the last year, this is something new. This is like a totally new field for the tech business, right? Like the prompting. You have prompt hackers popping up. And some services, rely on the user. They can take care of the prompting here. But then we have services such as Pirr, where we want to enhance the experience even further for the user. So we are working with hidden prompt systems. And this means that we are prompting the AI behind the scenes just to give it a little bit of push in certain directions or help the users who are not very AI savvy or doesn't know or have the skill of prompting AI. So what we do here is that we have authors that have great awareness of stereotypes and bias. And then we actually make sure we iterate through these prompts multiple times and update names, gender, sexual orientation, ethnicities, and cultures just to make sure that we are covering as much as we possibly can. And one final question that I want to take with you are like, who is writing these prompts? Because you're always flavoring them, just as we talked previously about confirmation bias and stereotypical thinking, that it's so easy to put in your own biases. So the best case here would, of course, to have someone who is aware of the bias, maybe have multiple people writing these prompts. And it's easy to just, pick up a developer or something who understands the model and have them write the prompts. But then it might be difficult for them to grasp this whole. So I suggest maybe you have a linguist or a talented author that has a good understanding of the language constructs. So now that we completed the roadmap here, and I urge you also to iterate, do not forget that. Thank you so much for listening. If you have questions or maybe you want to know more about Pirr, please email me. I would love to talk. And I hope you all learned something today. Thank you.